Hello, I'm Wayne from TorqueCars. So this is a video I've put together from a recent visit I made to the BHP performance show at my local track Lydden Hill. Stick around to the end because I put some of my favourite cars and projects and engines at the very end of this video. The show was really good this year. It was great to see so much imagination, such a diverse range of projects, not just your Honda or your BMW. There was some other really interesting cars, interesting engine swaps. So this video we're going to put up the highlight and hopefully it'll give each one of us a little bit of inspiration. And this Harley Quinn themed engine bay was one of the most impressive engine bays at the show, and it shows what you can do if you just stick to a theme and develop it. In this engine bay we see the intake partitioned off from the heat of the engine, which is always a good policy rather than just having a cone behind the radiator. So if you're modifying a car, attention to little details like that can make a big difference to the power that you get. A white Audi here, interesting brakes going on there, but how did they get a white Audi looking so clean? I've never managed this in my cars, and black looks fantastic when it's clean and shiny, but in a show environment like this with all the dust, it's a real challenge. It's always interesting to see engine swaps. So this big 5.7 litre V8 engine you would imagine is in a great big muscle car from America, but actually you discover that this is in a fairly ordinary classic Ford. This is a Cortina, it might be a Granada. If you know, please drop us a line in the comments. It's amazing how much you can dress up an engine bay just by changing the black rubber hoses for coloured ones. This gold engine bay has got a nice theme going on, but don't overdo the colours, otherwise it'll just look like rainbow vomit. And even popular engines like the V6 3.2 can look quite shabby if it's not looked after and not kept in good order. But with a little bit of imagination and dress up kit, you can make it look really special. So we've got here a modern version of the R32 just with an engine cover on the top. The whole thing looks so much nicer and so much better. And this RB27 has got a massive Garrett turbo on it. It's really nicely put together. They've paid attention to small details within the engine and its construction. You've got the strut brace over the front keeping everything tidy. And carbon fibre has been used judiciously throughout the engine bay on the intake. Some interesting welds going on in this intake. I'm not a massive fan of welds, but it's unavoidable. This drift car was really well put together and an absolute monster, the power that these things put down. Cosworth Engines from Ford are always popular at shows, and the engines themselves can do so much. So with a little bit of imagination you can get so much power out of these. And this VTEC, another popular engine at shows, it was really nice to see this one with a turbo fitted. But notice it's actually in a classic Ford Escort, and we've got some nice engine covers again. This one was green, not a big fan of the green, but look at the airbox and the way that's separated from the engine, which ensures that this intake will not suck. Well, it will suck in cold air, not the warm engine bay air that's going to sap power. The pattern on these brake discs was quite popular this year, so this seems to be the pattern that most people are going for on track cars, this little U shape. This interesting Duratec ST engine had an unusual pipe at the front of the engine. My guess is it's a screamer pipe, but if you know what this is, please let us know in the comments and share your thoughts. This turbo has not got an air filter fitted at all. They've just put a mesh over the inlet of the turbo, so there's absolutely nothing restricting this Cosworth engine whatsoever. So once again, this engine's putting out some pretty serious power. I just love seeing though what people have done to their engines, even with just a set of silicone hoses and nice little fixings. If you've got a theme going on, it can really help. And just wrapping the exhaust with some sort of thermal bandage like this can dramatically reduce those under bonnet temperatures. So we've got form and we've got function going on here. The nice coloured clips and hoses and joins and braided hoses and fixings look really nice in the engine, but they add to the strength of these components. And with these Sport engine mounts that we see, you can pretty much get most Civic engines into most other Civic models. Some are a bit of a challenge. Check out our site, we've got an in-depth article on Civic engine swaps, what works, what doesn't, what's easy, and the sort of problems that you're likely to encounter going through these. These Nissan engines are really popular at shows. We see so many of them, but locally we've got quite a few Fords, and it's not just your big Nissan Skylines that are set up for drifting and track work. A lot of the ordinary cars, it's really nice to see them out on the track, people actually out enjoying their car, getting the benefit of all the mods that they've done on their car and really pushing it to the limit. We did note that a lot of drivers didn't use their full allocation of track time. They had to pull off the track due to either brake fade, brake problems, so having insufficient stopping power not designed for the track can be a big problem on a track day. Those brakes are getting really hot, and just general overheating of the car. Also managing the heat in the engine with a better quality radiator. BMW were really well featured, and we've got some features coming up on BMW, so if you haven't subscribed, please do so and make sure you don't miss out on these. So we'll be looking at M4 tuning, the 335s, the N53, the N54 engines, all very popular engines and really solid. Nice to see strong lightweight carbon fibre being used as it is on these wheel arches. It looks fantastic within the engine bay and even on the exterior of the car. There's another shot of the Hasport engine mounts on this Civic VTEC engine, and even the motorsport cars were just nice to look at and see what they've actually done to their engines. We've got here a Rotary engine in an RX-7, so these are real beasts. The Wankel Rotary engines work quite differently from a reciprocating piston engine. They rev to infinity, it would seem. There's quite a bit of lag at the low end, but they really do motor when you cane them. I had a go in one of these and I was just amazed at how willing they were to rev. This red line went far beyond anything I'd ever driven before. He's put stretch tyres on this one, so I'm not a massive fan of stretch tyres, but he's got 225/40 18s fitted, and it looks nice. So if you're into that stretch tyre look, then this is something to go for. Fabricating your own cold air intake, the best place for it is probably the front. We'd like to see a carbon fibre channel pushing the air into that rather than just an open tube that flaps around, because when you're going at speed that could well bend down and cease to channel the air in, and actually you end up with a bit of a vacuum underneath it which can inhibit the airflow. But once again, it's great to see these Nissan engines and see what people are actually doing to them and putting some serious braking and stopping power on their cars. So it's not just done for the show. These cars are actually used and enjoyed by their drivers. Subaru Imprezas are other really popular cars. There's been so many generations of the Impreza. They've made a real storm in the rally environment, and it's not surprising to see that catching on here. We've got a really nice BMW 335 that I was able to take quite a bit of footage of, so we'll be dissecting that and looking at that in detail. I found this really nice 2JZ. It's in a Supra. It's fairly standard and stock. It's just really nice to see an engine that hasn't been molested to death, and those engines can cope with substantial power gains built from the factory to last up to about 650-700 brake horsepower on stock internals. So the BMW here had some really serious racing anchors, so think about your stopping power whenever you're building a track car. But a front mounted intercooler on this Golf really does help. The front mount is certainly the best place to actually put the intercooler. It gives you access to all that air coming in the front of the car. So we'll be looking at some of the mods like this. And this Beetle certainly caught my eye. They've put an engine in the front. It's not your classic chuggy Beetle that's fun to drive. It's a real track day racer. That spoiler on the back is actually doing quite a bit of work keeping everything on the track at these high speeds. It cornered really nicely and sounded absolutely fantastic. Hyundai was quite popular at this show. There was a big stand of these Hyundais, and it's nice to see that Hyundai have come so far. They've got some really nice engines to work on. We're going to be doing some in-depth video features and articles based on these engines, so if you've got one, make sure you subscribe and don't miss out on that information and those features that are coming up. But they've come so far in a relatively short space of time. We've got some really serious fun cars now coming out of these Korean car manufacturers, and this one had an interesting intake. It was nice to see the clear cover on the top. You can actually see the filter going on. The Honda Civic Type R, one of my favourite cars. I just love the spoilers. It just shouts aggressive. And there's quite a few Nissan 370Zs and 350Zs. There's a big debate as to which of the two is best, which you should go for, and we'll be looking at this in depth. We've got an article on our site at the moment just comparing the 350Z and the 370Z, but we'll be doing a video feature on it as well, where we dissect some of the finer points of each and look at the pros and cons of owning a 350Z or a 370Z. It's just lovely to see these cars set up for a show, and also with certain amounts of power mods added to them so they can actually enjoy it on the track as well. Gold isn't my favourite colour for a car, but it did look really good on this BMW M4. So we're back to the BMW 335. So this was a twin turbo, one of the earlier engines, and the owner's certainly got plans for that. This drift car puts down an enormous amount of power. I've just included it here at the end as a featured car just because they're so much fun to drive, and they've got more power often than F1 cars have. That was the Toyota 2JZ engine that I spoke about earlier. It was just really nice to see a Supra in such nice condition. It had air suspension. The owner, she'd owned the car for a few years and hadn't had any problems with it really. Really enjoyed the car. Was a real car enthusiast. So it's lovely to meet these owners at these shows. If you know of an owner whose car we featured, please put them in touch with us. We would really love to feature some of these cars and get more in-depth looks at them. And just seeing some of these track prepared cars, they show what cars are actually capable of. You couldn't live with this on your daily run. The box of eggs you've just picked up from the supermarket would be rolling around all over the place, but they're certainly fun on the track. No, there's no windows, so nothing there trapping heat in the car. You've got maximum amount of ventilation so the driver can still breathe. And it's another shot of the Beetle coming off the track. It was really hot. You could feel the heat coming out of the engine. You could practically boil an egg standing there 3 or 4 feet away. And this Nissan 350Z was just really nicely done. They had a Batman theme going on, so I've got a little bit more footage of that, so we'll be including that in future articles. So if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Don't forget, stay tuned and like this video because it really helps us to get out there. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.